Welcome to Real Foot Forward, a West Tennessee podcast from Discovery Park of America in Union City, Tennessee. Today's episode is brought to you by Final Flight Outfitters.
Thank you, Zach, and welcome to Real Foot Forward, a West Tennessee podcast where we explore the history, the people, and the culture of our home in West Tennessee. I'm your host, Scott Williams. Okay, Zach, before I introduce today's incredibly special guest, what's something that you've discovered this week at Discovery Park of America?
This week, I was walking around the Regional History Gallery and discovered the stump jumper. Stumps, logs, cypress knees, and trees can make boating a challenge on Reelfoot Lake. So beginning in 1910, the Calhoun family in Tiptonville, Tennessee, began building a flat-bottom boat called the stump jumper, and it could easily navigate through the lake's obstacles. This is just one of the many artifacts we have here that has ties to our region.
Well, thank you for that. Our guest today is a very good friend of mine, and she is the upcoming MC of the 2025 Discovery Awards, Sonya Gavankar-McKay. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you again, Scott.
I cannot wait to have you here in Union City. I know a whole bunch of our mutual friends came for the First Amendment Freedom of Expression conference that we had. You had already left. You weren't there anymore. And so it'll be fun to get you here.
I'm glad that this opportunity came up so that way I can finally come out and visit the Reelfoot area.
Absolutely. You know, Jonathan and his wife came, and we went out to Blue Bank Resort. And so we'll take you all out there. And Courtney and her husband have been here.
Wow. So I'm the last. So should I be hurt that it's taken so long, or should you be hurt that it's taken me so long?
We saved the best for last.
Oh, okay.
basically what it is. So Sonya, for those of you who are not aware, is a spokesperson, television and podcast host, filmmaker, social media content creator, and can even be seen hosting programs and commentary on everything from hard news to cooking shows on ABC and CBS affiliates, PBS, QVC, and even the Puppy Bowl. Here is just a little clip of her work.
It's time again for The Go, powered by Trivago.com, where this week we're sending you to Seattle to score a great deal on travel this year.
I'm here with James Swanson, the author of Manhunt, the 12-day chase for Lincoln's killer. Thanks for joining us. It's rolled oats, and these are things that really keep you full and healthy. Okay. That's the great part of this, but it really is the flavor. You handed it to me, which means I can eat it. It's a lighthearted way of introducing a very serious topic. What is the difference between teaching religion to encourage faith formation and teaching about religion from an academic perspective? I'm so excited about this. I have to tell you, this is the Pi Solo. Okay. It is for people like me who have what I call T-Rex arms. So like I don't take good selfies. So tell us.
Joining the table for the first time is Sheena Inu.
That's why Team Fluff will once again be sniffing butts and taking names. But Fluff's can't lose prospect is Bear, a first-round hound. It's a roster that will permanently park Ruff's pups in the doghouse.
That is some tough talk, Miss Inu.
I love these because these are so small, so when you pack them in your suitcase, you don't even know they're there until you absolutely need them. So put all your extras in here, check the carry-on, and then end up using one of these bags that's actually in here, folded up as your carry-on.
Yes. Put him on me.
And I think, this one really would look nice on you.
Okay, so he's going to just hang out on my outfit.
All right. We want people to do the same thing.
Facebook friends, it's Sonya from the Newseum. We're not at the museum. We're here on the south lawn of the White House at South.
And that was just a little taste of some of the things that you have been doing. We're also going to talk about your work with Axiom Space, because I'm very fascinated about that. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, what have you been up to?
Oh, well, most recently I had to just shovel my driveway because we've had a lot of snow here in the DC metro area. So I'm ready for spring. I'm ready to come out to Tennessee and, experience some other weather. But work's been keeping me really busy. It's multifaceted with me, and to a point that it's confusing. Like, what do I actually do? So I host a syndicated television show focused on consumer technology. I work for a aerospace company that's building the replacement to the International Space Station, the lunar spacesuits, and does private astronaut missions. I do communications because I am not an engineer. But I get to tell all those great stories of the smarty pants people who are writing the next golden age of space exploration and low Earth orbit. And then I do a lot of charity work, a lot of hosting work. So I just try and stay busy because then I stay out of the refrigerator. Let's be really honest. That's
well, and when you're here, I'm really going to pitch you hard on a exhibit in our space area. At least one of the Axiom space suits. I mean, you guys are doing all kinds of stuff. I just noticed 2 weeks ago, NASA and international partners approved the crew for Axiom's 4th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station, which
it's official. We're so excited for AX4 with the legendary Peggy Whitson as the commander, a nice Midwestern girl also. She's from Iowa, farmer, farm-raised Iowa girl who became the most decorated U.S. astronaut ever. So she's pretty incredible to work with every single day. And then 3 astronauts, each taking their country back to space for the first time in 40 years. It's a Hungarian, an Indian, and a Polish astronaut. So they're going to do incredible research over 2 weeks on the International Space Station this spring.
And they're actually launching from Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
That's right. So we go down to Florida, and then I stay in Houston, Texas for the month that they're kind of in preparation and then in space. So they go to space and I go to Houston, Texas to help support. And I do these crazy interviews with them that we put out on social media and on our channels where I'm actually talking to them on Teams in space. It's like the weirdest conference call you've ever done. They're just floating around in space. It's just normal. So it's a great gig I get to have.
How long will they be there?
They'll be there for 2 weeks. So they go to quarantine for 2 weeks before the mission. So we'll send them off. They have 2 weeks in quarantine where they continue training. They change their sleep schedule because the time zone in space is Greenwich Mean Time, so they have to acclimate to that. Then they go up on the mission. The phasing time, which is the time that it takes from launch until docking, can be anywhere from 8 hours to 34 hours. So depending on when they launch, we'll know that docking phasing time. And then they'll be there for 2 weeks, and then they'll come home, and then they'll rest and recover, and then we'll do a pinning ceremony to make them all official commercial astronauts, and then start in on the research that they've done. So all that research comes back with them, and all the scientists get to look at the data, see how the research has come. It's everything from cancer research to how humans experience the change in gravity while they're in space for long-term duration. Also semiconductors, which is really interesting. We're doing a fascinating diabetes study on this mission because we want space travel to be open to everybody. It's not just this high-performing 1% of that used to be the astronauts. It was, kind of your typical Apollo era kind of looking astronaut. We want it to be a very different, all parts of the world, all ages, all health. What was previously considered a limitation, like diabetes, we want those people to be able to experience space and do their own research as well.
My wife and I just binge watched a TV show. Maybe it was on HBO. Maybe you know about this, but it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's some sort of Space Force. Is that the name of the series? Hold on, I'm looking it up.
Well, I can tell you all the crazy stories about Space Force and what happened in the real Space Force while that show came on. So I can tell you that story too.
I love all of those space movies, like the one with Tom Hanks, and it's this one really. I'll have to look it up and tell you. For All Mankind.
Oh yeah, For All Mankind and Apple TV Plus, which is. That's fascinating. It's the alternative universe of space. Also fascinating. Here's my fun fact. The costume designer for All Mankind designed the cover layer of our spacesuit when we first announced it. Prada is now our partner in that fabrication process. So if you see the white spacesuit, that's the Prada suit, but the black one was created by the costume designer for All Mankind.
I mean, surely you guys have an extra spacesuit laying around you could throw our way and we could put it on display.
Well, I'm thinking there is our from AX2, our pilot on AX2 is from Tennessee. So we need to send you his flight suit. I got to work on that.
Yeah, no, that'd be a great story. We could get him on here. We could talk to him. We'd get him down here and do a whole little exhibit on his life. We've
John's
got
a great guy. I mean, what an entrepreneur. What a personal story.
We've got some space suits on display. Of course, I have the worst memory in the world, so I have to Google.
You have that huge space. You can't be remember all of the artifacts details when you're doing a podcast.
We do have like 4,000 here at Discovery Park. So, of course, like 3,500 of those are Native American arrowheads. So, but which you'll find out when you come here and visit.
Can't wait.
Okay, so back us up just a little bit. Tell us the Sonya Gavankar-McKay story from the beginning.
From the beginning, so from the very beginning, my parents are immigrants from India. My dad came over in the late 50s from India. He had a visa to learn how to do HVAC repair. And he went to the university or the Milwaukee School of Engineering is where he ended up going to school and eventually got a PhD in electrical engineering and became an inventor. My parents have a super traditional love story in the sense they had an arranged marriage. My mom came over after being married to my dad, and they embraced America to the end. And so my sister and I were raised as all American girls in Joliet, Illinois. Great upbringing. I mean, what a great place to grow up. Small little town outside of Chicago, Illinois, and had a great life there. In 1991, during the first Gulf War, I watched it live on TV like a lot of people and was inspired by the journalists who were covering. And I thought, man, that's what I really want to do. I want to have an adventure in my life. I want to live somewhere else every 5 weeks or something. I want to live out of a suitcase is what I told my parents. And they were like, that sounds insane. But supported me. And I went off to American University in Washington, D.C., where I knew I wanted to be in Washington to start my career. So I thought that's where I'm just going to start. This is all based on nothing, Scott. I had done no research. This is all gut instinct. This is what I want to do. Had a wonderful experience in college. Great place to learn the craft of journalism as you're doing it. And you're learning from educators whose day job are the jobs that you want to do. So really inspired. I took kind of a side jaunt into the Miss America system while I was there. Everybody needs a hobby in college. Mine was competing in Miss America. I competed in the 1997 Miss America pageant representing Washington, D.C. Honored to be the first Indian American to compete in that competition. So again, honoring my family in that way and making all the things come together. Graduated, started my career, weird circumstances that got me from CNN to the Freedom Forum, which is the parent organization of the Newseum. Very strange kind of way that all happened. It was like a friend of a friend of a friend while I was out of work who handed a resume. It's one of those stories of do your best. People are always watching and people will help you out. And I was lucky enough to work at the Newseum for 20 years.
Wow. I did not realize you were there that long.
I was there that long, but in a way it took me out of journalism in the sense that I didn't work in local news and I never took that path to what I wanted to do was be that war correspondent. I never got to do that, but it allowed me to have an insight into the highest forms of journalism, talk to the people who have done the most amazing, outstanding work, tell their stories, but do it during the evolution of the craft of journalism. So as we interacted with the historians who are telling the story, I was learning how to also do that work. And the craft of journalism that I wanted to do completely changed in the time in those 20 years with the advent of technology and the, going from 3 channels to 1 billion channels and then social media, all those different.
The decline of newspapers really impacted us a lot at the Newseum.
huge part of it. And so I was able to witness that and learn from it in real time. And then got a new boss named Scott Williams.
Yay!
Had the most impact in my career, probably by Scott. I don't know if I've ever told you this story. I tell this story about you all the time, but Scott, you raptured me from filmmaking and journalism into public relations. And I thought, I don't know how to do that. And I was really concerned. And I say it raptured because one day my desk was in one place and the next day it was over with the PR team. And I thought, oh no, what am I I'm going to the dark side.
I remember that so well. I remember you being nervous, like, can I do this? And I remember seeing you as doing what you're doing now. I mean, I knew you would be a great PR person, but it was because of your skills. It had nothing to do with me. It was all you.
No, but you saw it. You were the one who saw it and plucked me out and took me in a completely different direction at the right time for the industry. And we had a whole lot of fun doing it together at the Newseum. And then it was time for me to leave. It was just, again, it's that natural transition. And so moved on to doing storytelling for the Space Force as they stood up the newest branch of the military and the DoD in 75 years. So helping them tell their stories and using all of that career knowledge and experience to help them. And then stayed there for about 2 years. And now over at Axiom Space, I fell in love with space. I again wanted to push myself to do an industry I knew nothing about. And I thought, let's be scared. Let's learn something that is highly technical and an industry that I don't really, I had been to space camp as a kid, but I'm not an engineer. I'm not one of those scientists, but how can I bring my superpower to what they're doing? So it's been great. It's been a wonderful experience.
Well, we also got to be there during the transition from Obama and Trump. And, it was an interesting time to be in Washington, D.C.
Completely. Were you there during the Bush administration?
No.
No,
okay. Came after that.
Okay.
But we are when we get to after the break, I'm saving the very best for last. We're gonna talk about Sacha Baron Cohen after the break.
I was wondering if we would. I'm so excited.
It's been long enough. I think now we're okay.
Are we?
Even if it came out now, I think we would be okay.
Are we?
We might look a little silly, but it will be fine. So we'll talk about that after the break.
Okay.
So tell me, of all the things that happened at the Newseum, what is your favorite memory from the Newseum other than Sacha Baron Cohen?
Right. Sacha Baron Cohen, which we'll get to. So that was pretty amazing. The inaugurations were a fantastic experience. I really, the whole Newseum experience for me as a whole was allowed me to understand the craft of PR, journalism, storytelling in a way I don't think I could have done if I was doing any other job in our field, because it allowed us to see that first draft of history, as we like to say, but then take a critical eye to how it was evolving and what was happening in the zeitgeist and how people were consuming it. So when a lot of people say, I don't understand how, the liberals view news like this and the conservatives do this, I have a kind of an instinctual understanding about it because I understand how audiences consume content, whether it be news, whether it be entertainment, how and the situation that they're getting that information for the first time. It allows me to see it so differently just because I had the ability to be in that situation, to be removed, but inside it at the same time.
Of all the people that you got to work with at the Newseum, the movers and the shakers, if you will, the journalists, the politicians, who was the person you most remember and are excited you got to meet?
Well, I went into communications because of Christiane Amanpour. I once rode an elevator with her, and then I got in with all of my commuting bags and was like, oh my God, and had a little bit of a fangirl embarrassing moment with her, and she was very generous about it. I interviewed Ted Koppel during one of our live audience, it was called Inside Media, and we got to spend 30 minutes talking to a journalist every weekend. Ted Koppel was amazing. I mean, I was looking at him while he was telling stories, and I thought, I've only seen this man with a TV glass in front of me. Like it was this weird kind of out of body experience where I was seeing incredible people. There's so many, like I can't make an itemized list of it because something amazing happened every single day in the office. And I think that I was in the moment was excited enough to never be jaded, like, oh, this again. Although, remember when the president would come and we would have to like, oh, those elevators are shut down again. And
the dogs, I always loved it because the dogs would come sniffing through. I was always a little afraid, even though I was innocent. What if?
What if there's a peanut butter sandwich I forgot in my desk?
Right. Or there's somebody planted something on me. But no, it was always, and to me, that was what was nice is you really saw that these were people.
Yeah.
And really, I think most of them were way more authentic and trying hard. Both sides of the aisle were really, really thought that they were doing the right thing. And there was a lot of, dialogue and discussion. And there was really a lot more respect behind the scenes than came across in the media. So it's really interesting.
A lot of the people that we spoke to were seasoned journalists. They were the ones who were doing the science and craft of journalism. They weren't commentators. They weren't just brought on to give their viewpoint in different ways. So we were really seeing the service part of journalism and how those people had such respect for it every single day.
And then, of course, a lot of the stories we can't share on this podcast, but I do remember a lot of really hilarious moments that we would all be having a great time behind the scenes laughing. A lot of really great times with such amazing people worked at the Newseum. So it was a wonderful place. So you have moved on to Axiom Space, which is a whole different sector.
Yeah.
Space and science and all that's definitely very different. What have you learned at Axiom that's different than what you felt like you learned at the Newseum?
The speed at which people want to move is completely different. I'm used to that journalism speed, and I think from our time at the Newseum that we all came from an immediacy in getting things out and iterating. The government, gosh, when I worked at the Pentagon, they were like, be ready. This is going to come out. And I was like, I'm ready. And then like 3 weeks later, I was like, I'm still ready and exhausted now. And they're like, oh, no. When we said be ready, it's going to be like 2 months. I was like, I cannot sustain this. So the speed is very different, but that allows me to be more thoughtful, which I have really tried to mature in my careers. I have honed my gut instinct and I've honed my rapid fires so well over the years that now I have the luxury of dialing it back and being thoughtful and using data, which really excites me, is being able to look at data before you make a choice on how you're doing storytelling to make it as impactful as possible.
We're going to take a break in just a minute. And as I promised, we're going to talk about our friend, Sacha Baron Cohen. But then first of all, tell us how your family's doing.
My family's great. I have a 11-year-old son. He is really fantastic, but my God, getting him out of the door in the morning is really impossible. Remember when I talked about speed moments ago? He does not understand timeliness or speed at all. And I have a, how old is he now? Like 3-ish-year-old Rottweiler who is a moose. So I have a tank in my house. He's got a lot of health issues. So I described him yesterday to my family as he has rear wheel drive. So he just kind of comes in like Kramer to every room, just 100 miles an hour, 100 pounds, just sliding all over the place. So it's kind of utter chaos in my family at all times, but all really good. My husband works for the Department of the Treasury and has a really boring job. And I think people probably wonder how he puts up with me. And I do too.
Well, I was worried because I know he is in charge of the pennies. And so when I heard that, we're getting rid of the pennies, I was worried about him. No, he's not really in charge.
No, he's good. He's in a good place.
Good. Okay, we're going to take a break. And when we get back, we're going to tell our story.
Okay.
With Final Flight Outfitters, you don't have to hunt for the world's best gear. The best of the best, selected by some of the world's best hunters, can be found in their Union City store, in their catalog, and online at finalflight.net.
I hope you're enjoying the Real Foot Forward podcast from Discovery Park of America. If you are, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a positive review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our guest today is Sonya Gavankar-McKay. Okay, Hi. So when we left, we were going to tell our story.
Well, your audience can't see me, but I'm wearing a turtleneck, and I feel like as we're telling the story, I want to like hide in my turtleneck to this day. Like, how long ago was this, Scott? It's been at least 10 years.
Well, I've been here almost 7.
7. So it's been
I would say it's been 8 years ago.
God, it's still.
We can look up. We can look up when Bharat 2 came out, because it was a few months before that. Bharat 2. Let's see here. It was released on October 23rd, 2020. Is that right?
That could be right. Maybe it was. I think it's better to go off when you left than that time.
Oh, here we go.
Anyway. It's been long enough that I should be over it, and I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't you just kind of tell us how I got started?
Okay. So, the job of a PR professional is to answer all of the phones and the questions. And we got a call from some producers who wanted to do a shoot in the Newseum, which we love. And we said yes to almost everything because people are telling good stories about us. And they're like, we're doing a pilot. A pilot is a show that has not been picked up, so it could never see the light of day. But we thought, hey, let's take a chance. It's for a good network, good production company. Sure. So they're like, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have this guy come to learn about newspapers.
He's a veteran.
Like, a veteran.
A veteran.
He's gonna come and I like how you're like, that's the thing that you remember.
Well, because that was sort of the trick. If it'd just been a regular person, we might not have responded as quickly, because it was a veteran. So, we love veterans and we want to be supportive.
And so that guy was going to come and learn about history of newspapers, or he had some sort of interest. And there was a host that was going to come and take him along this path. We're like, yeah, fine, whatever. And so then they're like, okay, we're dumping the host and we're just going to bring the veteran. Fine. And
he wanted to present something to the CEO. So I had to be there to accept whatever this was he was going to present.
Oh, I had forgotten that whole point. Yeah, because and then there were all these very last minute changes that we were not fazed by at all, because things change on a dime. I mean, there was a time that I was ready for a local news team to come to shoot something at the Newseum. They walked in the door and got a call that there was a fire somewhere else in Washington and left. So things like that happen. And I was there at 5 o'clock in the morning for these morning hits that never happened. Anyway, so change, totally flexible. So they are like, okay, he's going to come and everything's going to be set up and we're going to have lights everywhere. Again, this is we dealt with this all the time. It was not a big deal. So they were all set up, and then they're like, he's arriving with his son, and I had to go pick him up from the door. And we had a security protocol where everybody had to sign in, but he hadn't brought any IDs, so he couldn't sign in. We're like, that's fine. You're here with the crew. Fine. So the crew is all set up. This guy comes in, and he's weird and just odd, but fine, but odd. And he's like, and then the son was there, and the son was fine, but whatever. And so they leave, or the guy goes to the bathroom. He has to go to the bathroom. So we're like, the bathroom's right there. And we're over here to, right next door to do the interview. And Scott, our CEO, the tippy top of the spear, is ready to do the interview. And he's waiting for you. And he's like, great. And so they had told me that they were from Tennessee. And so I was like, great, amazing. Our CEO is from Tennessee. You'll have something in common. And then he goes to the bathroom. son comes over to you and you guys are sort of chit-chatting. Where are you from in Tennessee? This, that, and the other. And we just feel super odd about it. Something is not right. And
the son gave us his name. It was something like Billy.
Jimmy, Billy. I think you're right. I think it's Billy.
I'm looking him up because I still follow him on Instagram because he gave me enough. There he is right there. Billy Wayne Davis.
Billy Wayne. Yeah. And then he gave us their real names, right?
Well, no, he said his name was Billy Wayne, but he didn't say the Davis part, but he said just enough. Right. You were able to go over and do some Googling.
So then you guys were chatting and you handed me your phone which I took as look up this dude. And so, he had given us enough information that I found him on Wikipedia, I think. And then the father was coming out of the bathroom just about when I handed you back your phone with this guy's picture and bio up. And you were like, oh, so you're a corn farmer? And he's like, yep. And you're like, you're not Billy Wayne Davis? And you like held up the phone to his face. Like, you're not the comedian from like Memphis. And then everything fell apart. Like,
and Sasha Borat, what's his name? Sacha Baron Cohen, who, if people don't know, he dresses up in costume and makes fun of people and makes you make a fool of yourself and then puts that in a documentary. So, he was obviously in a fat suit.
He was also really tall. Right. So this is after the fact. So he was in a motorized wheelchair to hide that he was like 7 feet tall. We could tell he was really tall. And in a fat suit, wearing a wig, wearing a prosthetic nose, and I feel like a beard, or maybe, I don't even remember.
Well, but you can look him up because in Borat 2, he makes fun of people and he dresses like that.
Yeah.
Yep. He's in that getup.
And so the whole thing falls apart because we have now clocked the sun in this thing. And then the motorized wheelchair just sort of like he disappears. And the Newseum is not an easy place to get in and out of. And he had figured out how to get out of there. And
now, let me add one more point. Yeah. And this is a key point for folks who are PR professionals or anybody who deals with the media. I was, first of all, when you're doing an interview with the media, they do not hand you anything to sign to clear your presence, but they did me in this situation, handing me a clipboard and said, we just need you to sign this real quick. And I knew better, but I thought, I'm not going to do anything that I don't mind being out there. So I'm going to go ahead and sign it, so I signed it, but I probably shouldn't have signed it because I gave them permission in that moment to use up that video of you and I if they chose to, and they might still. I hope they do now. I think it'd be more fun if we had the clips.
Don't say Beetlejuice 3 times because I'm so afraid. I'm still so afraid of any of the things that were said or done. Not that we would have done it, but it was so weird. And you see so clearly how people find themselves in weird positions because we went along with it and we weren't even starstruck or dazzled by the cruise, but we were like, sure, we're trusting. We'll sign that. We'll let you all in through security without any,
that's what honestly hurt my feelings. Is I felt like we were bending over backwards to accommodate this veteran after hours, out of the goodness of our heart, because it wasn't really going to help us. I thought we were helping him. And so then what happens? It all starts to fall apart. So there's a makeup artist. The makeup artist is also sort of just weirded out. And then what happens?
And then they all disappear and you and I go to your office and we sit there like we have been struck by lightning. We have no idea what it is.
He gets out of his wheelchair and starts running down the.
We never saw him get out of the wheelchair. The wheelchair and he disappeared, and I went running down to the loading dock where I had let him in, and I saw like the Sprinter van, and I saw the driver lifting the scooter into the Sprinter van. I was like, "What is happening?" And so everybody disappeared. There were no apologies. They were just like, they were gone, like it never happened. And we were left to wonder, what happened? What was that? So then we started trying to deconstruct it. I originally thought it was Will Ferrell because he was so tall. I was like, maybe that was like a Will Ferrell thing that went wrong, or we were clearly about to be punked, but we don't know by who or what. And then I knew the makeup artist because DC's a small town, and I had met her somewhere, and I called her and said, what was that? And she said, I signed a non-disclosure and I cannot tell you. And I was like,
but then we also called your sister.
Then we called my sister who works in LA, and I was like, do you know of anything that's going on? And she did not. But then I got confirmation from a former Miss America who was doing, whose husband is a stunt double for Sacha Baron Cohen, that he was in DC. Did I tell you that years later, like 2 years ago, a friend of mine who was the PR professional at the Mandarin Oriental, that's where they were staying. And so there it was like a huge, like he wouldn't come out of the room. There were all these issues. And so she was dealing with that at the same time that Rudy Giuliani was doing that Four Seasons thing up in Philly. Is that where that was? New Jersey?
Yeah.
So they were both there at the same time.
Yeah, I remember us texting each other. We had both left by then, and I remember being afraid when it came out and watching the whole thing when it came out, like as quickly as I could to make sure that we weren't on it looking like fools. So
yeah. I still don't know what was supposed to happen. I mean, one day when I hope
They were going to ask us questions about Trump and try to get us to respond in an angry way. And, but they didn't know how professional the two of us were, and that we weren't going to fall for their little shenanigans.
That's still, it's maybe PTSD still.
Yeah, no, I think about it all the time. It was a great lesson from a PR perspective and 100%. From being ready. But I think you did all the right things. You were ready. Next, what are you most excited about visiting Obion County, Union City, Discovery Park of America?
I'm excited about that slide in that. I can't wait to see that. Your open escalator. I can't wait to see the inner workings of the open escalator. Just all the exhibits. I can't wait to spend some time there. I'm going to spend some time with your Rotary Club, I believe, as well. So I look forward to meeting some business professionals in the area. The thing I love most about travel and hosting and doing events in cities is meeting the people in those places, because we have become so insulated as a culture. And after the COVID years, I feel like there are so many interesting people to meet and learn about. And I just can't wait to do that. Also to go out to University of Tennessee in Martin. I feel like that's going to be a stop on the trip. My son is going to come with me, so being able to experience museums is one of his favorite things. So we'll tool around and really get the whole lay of the land. I want to see the lake, right? The Reelfoot Lake.
Yep.
We'll show you. It's probably too early, right? It's probably still winter.
Yeah, no, we'll show you that. There's a lot to see there. And then I also want to make sure you see Joann's with Paige and all the Miss America gowns that they make there. We have Miss Americas from all over the country fly in here just to get dresses from there. So
that's what I need to do. I need to, I do have a pile of dresses that I need to try on to see what I want to wear to Tennessee. So if I can't find anything, we'll just have to get it from Joann's.
Paige will have an unlimited number of dresses, I'm sure.
Perfect.
That you can pick out from. So awesome. Well, thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you, Scott. I really look forward to seeing you again and to experiencing your I was going to say new home, but you've been there forever now. So
this is home. So I'm looking forward to having you. And
go ahead. Do I need to work on my accent? Because I do live in Virginia, which is the South, but I feel like,
Right. Virginia's not really the South. People in Virginia think they're in the South. They always say that. But, it's no, I think the different, you just be you. Here in Obion County, we love people who just be themselves.
Perfect. I will bring myself, and I look forward to meeting all of the wonderful people of Reelfoot.
Absolutely. And thank you to all you listeners who've joined us today at Discovery Park of America. Shout out to our friends at Final Flight Outfitters for sponsoring today's episode. Our mission here is to inspire children and adults to see beyond. To plan an experience here for you and your family, visit discoveryparkofamerica.com.
Wait, Final Flight, do they have camo? Because I love camo. Maybe that's what I should wear.
Oh my gosh. I thought of that too. We've got to get you over to Final Flight. Talk about camo. This is one of the largest distributors, brick and mortar and catalog. And anyway, so you're going to love Final Flight. We're doing that too. You might need to be here for a week.
Okay, I'll change my flight.